The esoteric meaning of Eyes Wide Shut. Stanley Kubrick bequeathed us in Eyes Wide Shut, a work that transcends the boundaries of conventional cinema to venture into the deepest territories of Western esoteric symbolism. Beneath the apparent story of a marriage in crisis lies a complex initiatic map that reveals the hidden structures of power and the dual nature of human reality. The title as mystical koan. Eyes Wide Shut constitutes in itself a paradoxical koan that summarizes the entire philosophy of the film. This oxymoron points toward one of the fundamental truths of esotericism: the radical distinction between seeing and perceiving, between ordinary vision and spiritual vision. The characters in the film, especially Bill Hartford, have their physical eyes open but remain blind to the deeper reality surrounding them. This selective blindness is not accidental, but structural, part of the very design of a society that keeps its members in a state of spiritual somnambulism. The paradox of the title connects directly with Gnostic traditions that distinguish between sleeping and awakened humanity. The eyes wide shut represent the state of most of humanity, living in what the Gnostics called the world of appearances, the realm of the demiurge, where everything is illusion and deception. The sacred geography of New York. Kubrick constructs a particular sacred geography using New York as the setting. Bill's movements are not random, but follow a labyrinthine pattern that evokes ancient rites of passage. His nocturnal journey through the city constitutes a descent into the psychic underworld, similar to Orpheus's journey or the Eleusinian mysteries. Each location Bill visits represents a different station in his initiatic process. The apartment where the prostitute dies symbolizes the death of the ego. Milich's costume shop acts as the threshold between ordinary and extraordinary worlds. The Long Island mansion functions as the sanctum sanctorum, where forbidden mysteries are revealed. This spatial progression follows the classic patterns of Hermetic literature, where the protagonist must traverse different trials and revelations before accessing hidden knowledge. However, Kubrick introduces a crucial variation. Bill fails in his initiation, remaining unconscious of the true meaning of his experience. The Somerton Ritual, Theater of Mysteries. The Somerton Mansion sequence constitutes the esoteric heart of the film. Kubrick recreates here the fundamental elements of a secret society ritual, but presents them in a way that reveals as much as it conceals. The masked participants, ceremonial robes, neoclassical architecture, and ritual music compose a tableau that simultaneously evokes Masonic rites, ceremonies of the Ordo Templi Orientis, and Dionysiac mysteries. The masks perform a particularly sophisticated dual function. On the superficial level, they hide the participants' identities, allowing social elites to indulge their impulses without public consequences. But on the esoteric level, the masks reveal the true nature of these individuals, showing their animal and demonic faces. The mask thus becomes an instrument of revelation rather than concealment. The red color that dominates the ceremony connects with the alchemical symbolism of rubido, the final phase of the great work where the union of opposites occurs. However, in the degenerate version Kubrick presents, this sacred union has become mere orgiastic display, a simulacrum emptied of authentic spiritual content. The initiatic function of the pianist. Nick Nightingale, the blindfolded pianist, represents a fundamental archetypal figure in esoteric symbolism, the blind musician who sees more than the sighted. His ritual blindness during the ceremony makes him a modern Tiresias, capable of accessing realities forbidden to those who retain ordinary sight. The relationship between Bill and Nick evokes the classic dynamic between the profane and the initiate. Nick possesses esoteric information about secret rituals, but this information carries a terrible price. His subsequent disappearance suggests that knowledge of mysteries always entails mortal danger for those unprepared to receive it. Alice functions as revealing anima that precipitates her husband's initiatic crisis. Her confession about the naval officer is not simply a marital revelation, but a spiritual detonator that destroys Bill's illusions about the nature of his reality. In Jungian terms, Alice represents the wisdom of the unconscious that violently erupts into the structured consciousness of the masculine ego. Her erotic dream acts as a hierophany, a manifestation of the sacred that reveals the illusory nature of the everyday world Bill had taken for granted. The tension between masculine and feminine that runs throughout the film connects with the alchemical symbolism of conjunctio oppositorum, the union of contraries that constitutes the final objective of the great work. However, Bill and Alice remain separated, unable to realize this sacred synthesis that would transform them both. Chromatic symbolism, red and blue. Kubrick employs a very specific chromatic code that connects with millennial esoteric traditions. The omnipresent red simultaneously evokes the blood of ritual sacrifices, the alchemical fire of transformation, and sexual energy as primordial creative force. But in the degenerate context of the film, this red has become a symbol of corruption rather than regeneration. The blue that complements the red creates a fundamental tension between opposing forces, red representing the Dionysiac realm of passion, instinct, and vital impulse, while blue embodies the Apollonian domain of reason, control, and cold distance. This chromatic duality permeates the entire film, from the cold blue lighting of New York's nocturnal streets to the warm red interiors of spaces where forbidden desires are unleashed. The interplay between these colors reflects the eternal struggle between rational consciousness and unconscious drives that defines the human condition. The mask as symbol of transformation. The mask Bill acquires at Milich's shop functions as a talisman of passage between worlds. In shamanic traditions, the mask allows the wearer to adopt the personality and powers of the being represented. Bill, however, uses his mask profanely as mere disguise to infiltrate a world he doesn't understand. The mask that appears on his pillow at the end constitutes an unequivocal message. The forces he has awakened know his real identity and can reach him at any moment. The mask thus becomes a symbol of omnipresent surveillance that transcends the merely human. The tripartite structure of the initiatic journey. Bill's experience follows the classic structure of ancient mysteries: separation, initiation, and return. His departure from the family home represents separation from the profane world. His nocturnal journey through the city constitutes the initiatic trials. His return to Alice symbolizes reintegration into the ordinary world. However, Kubrick subverts this traditional structure by presenting a failed initiation. Bill returns to his starting point without truly assimilating the teachings of his experience. His final tears beside Alice do not represent genuine catharsis, but the painful recognition of his own inability to transcend the limitations of his ordinary consciousness. The meta-cinematic dimension. Eyes Wide Shut also functions as commentary on the very nature of cinema and spectacle in contemporary society. The rituals Bill witnesses are not different in essence than cinematic spectacle. Both create alternate realities that fascinate and seduce the observer without ever revealing their true mechanisms of operation. Kubrick suggests we live in a society of spectacle, where images have replaced reality, where simulacrum has become more convincing than the authentic. In this context, cinema itself becomes potential initiatic ritual, capable of awakening the prepared spectator, but also of deepening the sleep of those unready for revelation. Conclusion: the failed awakening. Eyes Wide Shut ultimately presents the tragedy of failed awakening in an era where traditional structures of initiation have degraded or disappeared. Bill Hartford represents contemporary man who intuits the existence of hidden realities, but lacks the spiritual tools necessary to access them constructively. The film functions as a mirror for the spectator. Those who see it as mere erotic thriller remain with eyes wide shut, while those who perceive its esoteric dimensions can use it as an instrument of self-knowledge. Kubrick thus bequeathed us a work that operates simultaneously as entertainment and hermetic teaching, continuing a tradition that reaches back to the ancient mysteries of Eleusis. Ultimately, Eyes Wide Shut reminds us that true spiritual awakening cannot be imposed from without, but must arise from authentic interior transformation. The eyes will remain closed while the heart is not prepared to see.